Power does not come from what you consume. It comes from what you can refuse. Most people believe fasting weakens them, but weakness only belongs to those who are ruled by appetite, fear, and reaction. Witchcraft does not fear noise, it fears discipline. In the next moments, you will understand why certain fasting hours collapse every dark assignment. Not through force, not through fear, but through absolute inner control. When the self is mastered, nothing outside can command you. Most people believe fasting is about denying the body food, but that is a shallow understanding. Hunger is not the enemy. The real battle is not in the stomach. It is in the moment when the mind demands comfort and the body expects obedience. That is where power is either lost or formed. From the moment you choose not to react to an impulse, something subtle shifts. You are no longer being led. You are standing. This is where fasting truly begins, not with time, but with authority over the self. When the body asks and you do not immediately respond, you create space. In that space, awareness sharpens. You begin to see how often your actions are driven by habit, craving, and emotional fluctuation. Witchcraft, manipulation, and negative intention do not attach themselves to strength. They attach to instability. They feed on emotional hunger, mental noise, and uncontrolled desire. A person who cannot sit with discomfort is an open door. A person who can remain calm within it becomes unreachable. Discipline is misunderstood as punishment, but discipline is clarity. It is the decision to remain centered when the body negotiates, when the mind complains, when emotions search for distraction. In fasting, the body learns that it is not the ruler. And when the body stops ruling, fear loses its grip. Anxiety weakens. The inner dialogue slows. This is not coincidence. Chaos cannot survive where order is practiced daily. As hunger rises, many believe they are becoming weaker. In truth, they are becoming more honest. Hunger exposes what controls you. It reveals impatience, irritation, dependency, and emotional fragility. But exposure is not defeat. Exposure is training. Each moment you remain steady teaches the nervous system that discomfort is not danger. And once discomfort is no longer feared, external influence loses its power. Dark assignments rely on reaction. They rely on fear, on confusion, on emotional spikes. They cannot attach to someone who is internally still. Fasting trains stillness, not the stillness of exhaustion, but the stillness of command. You begin to move slower, speak less, and observe more. This is not weakness. This is the posture of someone who cannot be shaken. Over time, fasting changes how you respond to life itself. You stop rushing to satisfy every urge. You stop feeding every thought. You stop reacting to every provocation. And in that restraint, something stronger than protection forms. Presence. Presence does not need defense. It dissolves opposition simply by existing. This is why fasting is not about suffering. It is about leadership. You are teaching the body to follow, the mind to listen, and the spirit to remain unmoved. When inner order is established, nothing external finds entry. When discipline becomes your nature, darkness finds no chaos to work with. Master the moment you want relief, and you master the doorway no darkness can cross. The first fasting hour arrives quietly, yet it is the most revealing. Nothing dramatic happens on the outside, but inside the noise begins. The body sends signals, the mind starts negotiating, and familiar thoughts rise up asking for comfort, routine, and relief. This is not weakness, this is exposure. For the first time, you are able to observe how quickly the self reacts when its patterns are interrupted. And in that observation, the work begins. At this stage, hunger is not strong, but habit is. The body is accustomed to being fed at certain times, soothed in certain ways, distracted whenever silence appears. When food is delayed, the mind fills the gap with restlessness. Thoughts jump, emotions shift, impatience surfaces. Witchcraft and negative intention thrive in this exact environment, where the inner world is unsettled and attention is scattered. The first fasting hour interrupts this pattern. It breaks the automatic rhythm that keeps people internally exposed. Instead of responding immediately, you stay, you breathe, you notice the sensation without labeling it as a problem. This is important. The moment you stop fighting the discomfort, it loses its authority. The noise does not disappear, but it no longer controls you. And when control shifts, the mind begins to quiet, not because it is forced to, but because it has nothing to feed on. This hour teaches you something essential. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is awareness without reaction. As the body waits and the mind slows, your attention returns to the present moment. You become grounded. Thoughts stop pulling you forward or backward. This grounding is not spiritual theory. It is physiological and mental alignment. And alignment closes doors that chaos depends on. In this first hour, many give up, not because they are weak, but because they misinterpret the signals. The body is not asking for food, it is asking for certainty. It is used to being obeyed. When it realizes it is no longer in command, it resists. But resistance is the doorway to discipline. Each moment you remain calm teaches the system a new pattern. Discomfort does not require reaction. This is why this hour weakens external influence. When your inner world stops reacting automatically, nothing external can provoke you easily. Words lose their sting, thoughts lose their urgency, fear loses its momentum. Witchcraft cannot attach to someone who is not emotionally available to it. You are not trying to overpower anything here. You are simply refusing to be pulled. The power lies in staying present, staying still, staying aware. In this hour, you are not fasting from food, you are fasting from noise. And when the noise breaks, clarity takes its place. As the fasting continues and you move beyond the initial resistance, something important begins to change. The body has already protested. The mind has already complained. Now both start to realize that reaction is no longer rewarded. This is where authority is formed. Not loudly, not aggressively, but quietly and deeply. The chaos that once demanded attention begins to lose strength, and in its place, awareness becomes steady. These middle hours are not dramatic, but they are decisive. The hunger is present, yet it no longer dominates. Instead of pulling you outward, it draws you inward. You become more observant of your thoughts, your breathing, your posture. The mind, no longer busy negotiating relief, begins to settle into presence. This is when fear weakens, not because it is fought, but because it has nothing to attach itself to. Witchcraft and dark intention rely heavily on inner fragmentation. They seek a mind that is divided, a heart that is unsettled, a nervous system that reacts quickly. In these hours, that fragmentation starts to dissolve. You are no longer chasing comfort, and because of that, nothing external can easily chase you. You begin to respond instead of react. This difference may seem small, but it changes everything. As fasting deepens, emotions surface with clarity. Irritation, impatience, memories, even old wounds may arise. This is not a sign of vulnerability. It is a sign that distraction has been removed. What appears is what was already there. And now, instead of suppressing it or escaping it, you observe it calmly. Observation without judgment weakens emotional charge. When emotions lose charge, they lose power. In this state, your inner posture changes. You sit differently. You walk more slowly. You speak with intention rather than impulse. This calm is not tiredness, it is composure. A composed person cannot be easily influenced. Their energy does not leak. Their focus does not scatter. Their presence becomes dense and grounded. This is where prayers gain weight, not because words become louder, but because the one speaking them is aligned. Thought, breath, and intention begin to move in the same direction. There is no internal contradiction. And where there is no contradiction, interference fails. Witchcraft cannot disrupt what is internally unified. Many underestimate this phase because it feels ordinary. But ordinary discipline practiced consistently becomes extraordinary protection. You are training the nervous system to remain stable under pressure. You are teaching the mind to stay clear without stimulation. You are reminding the spirit that it does not depend on external conditions to remain firm. At this point, you no longer feel like you are enduring the fast. You feel carried by it. Time slows, awareness sharpens, and a quiet confidence emerges, not pride, but certainty. Certainty that nothing needs to be forced. Certainty that nothing needs to be feared. When the ego weakens, authority takes its place. As the fast deepens, you reach a point where hunger is no longer just a sensation, it becomes a mirror. The body is tired, the mind is quieter, and what remains is raw truth. This is the hour where weakness is often misunderstood. People think this moment will break them, but in reality, this is where inner fire is revealed. Not the fire of anger or force, but the fire of steadiness under pressure. Discomfort is no longer new now. It has stayed long enough that it stops demanding attention. And when discomfort no longer controls you, it transforms. What once felt like strain becomes warmth, focus, and clarity. The body learns efficiency, the mind learns restraint. The spirit learns confidence. This is not accidental. This is the natural result of staying present instead of escaping. In this phase, you may notice that reactions have almost disappeared. Hunger does not irritate you the way it did before. Silence feels natural. Your senses sharpen, yet you feel calm. This is inner fire, not explosive but contained. Like a flame protected from wind, it does not flicker with every disturbance. Witchcraft and dark intentions cannot survive near such containment. They depend on emotional volatility, fear, and unconscious movement. Here, none of that exists. What makes this hour powerful is not the absence of weakness, but the mastery of it. You may still feel tired, you may still feel empty, but these sensations no longer define you. You are no longer inside them, you are observing them. And the moment you step outside identification, power shifts back into your hands. This is where many unknowingly regain what they have been giving away for years. Self-trust. You realize you can remain calm without reassurance. You can stay grounded without comfort. You can hold clarity without stimulation. This realization changes how you carry yourself. Your presence becomes firm, quiet, and uninviting to interference. Dark assignments attempt to enter through cracks, emotional wounds, unresolved fear, uncontrolled desire. In this hour, those cracks are exposed and sealed, not through effort but through awareness. Awareness is heat, it dissolves illusion, it burns away unnecessary reaction. What remains is simplicity and strength. You may notice your breathing deepen, your movements slow, your thoughts become fewer but sharper. This is alignment, not spiritual excitement, not emotional intensity, alignment. When the inner world aligns, energy stops leaking outward, and what does not leak cannot be manipulated. This inner fire is not something you create, it is something you uncover. It was always there, hidden beneath habit and excess. Fasting removes the excess. Discipline reveals the fire, and once revealed, it does not need to prove itself. Stillness with strength is untouchable. As the fast moves toward its later stage, something rare begins to happen. The struggle has faded, the noise has quieted, and what remains is clarity. This is the hour where alignment takes place. Not forced alignment, not something you try to achieve, but a natural coming together of thought, intention, and awareness. You are no longer pulled in different directions. There is a sense of being whole, centered, and internally consistent. At this point, the mind is no longer scattered. Thoughts arise slowly, deliberately. Words feel heavier, more intentional. You are aware not only of what you think, but why you think it. This awareness closes gaps that once existed inside you. And where there are no gaps, nothing enters. Witchcraft does not break through strength, it slips through openings. Alignment removes those openings completely. You may notice that prayer, intention, or silent focus feels different now. It is no longer rushed or emotional. There is no desperation. There is no bargaining. There is simply presence. When intention comes from presence, it carries weight, not because it is loud, but because it is undivided. A divided mind weakens its own words. A unified mind speaks once, and that is enough. This is also the hour where patience becomes effortless. Waiting no longer feels like delay. Silence no longer feels empty. You are comfortable inside yourself. This comfort is dangerous to any external influence because manipulation relies on discomfort. It relies on restlessness, longing, and internal pressure. When those are gone, there's nothing to push against. Emotionally, you feel balanced, not numb, not detached, but steady. Joy does not excite you excessively. Difficulty does not disturb you deeply. You are responsive without being reactive. This emotional balance is not passive, it is alert. And alertness without fear is one of the strongest states a human being can hold. In this alignment, your energy becomes coherent. It moves in one direction instead of leaking in many. This coherence is felt. Others may not be able to explain it, but they sense it. A person in alignment does not need to assert themselves. Their presence already speaks, and darkness does not argue with presence. It withdraws from it. This is why no ritual, no intention, no assignment can override a person who is internally aligned. There is no contradiction to exploit, no emotional hook to pull, no fear to amplify. Alignment is not protection around you, it is integrity within you. And integrity cannot be penetrated. Here, fasting no longer feels like an action you are doing. It feels like a state you are in. Time feels different. You are not waiting for the fast to end. You are fully where you are. And in that fullness, there is nothing missing, nothing vulnerable, nothing exposed. When thought, breath, and intention move as one, interference becomes impossible. In the final stage, something subtle but decisive settles in. You no longer feel like you are resisting anything. There is no opponent to push against, no darkness to confront, no force required. This is where many misunderstand the goal. They believe fasting is meant to build protection, as if you are surrounding yourself with barriers. But barriers imply fear. Mastery does not. At this point, you are not protected because nothing is attacking. You are untouched because nothing can reach you. Your reactions have slowed to the point where they rarely appear. Thoughts come and go without demanding attention. Emotions arise and pass without leaving residue. You are no longer pulled outward by circumstances. You remain seated within yourself. This is mastery, not controlled through tension, but controlled through ease. The body knows how to function with less. The mind knows how to remain clear without stimulation. The spirit knows how to stand without validation. When these three understand their roles, there is no conflict inside. And without internal conflict, there is no leverage for anything external. Darkness, manipulation, and interference require participation. They require fear to respond, desire to chase, anger to ignite. In mastery, there is no participation. You do not resist, so nothing pushes harder. You do not fear, so nothing grows louder. You do not react, so nothing escalates. What cannot provoke you cannot reach you. This is why the strongest position is not defense, but neutrality rooted in awareness. You are alert, not asleep, present, not passive, calm, not withdrawn. You see clearly, and because you see clearly, there is no need to act unnecessarily. Action, when it comes, is precise and minimal. In this state, you understand something important. Power is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek confirmation. It does not rush to prove anything. It simply remains. And what remains steady long enough becomes immovable. Fasting ends, but mastery does not. Food returns, but discipline stays. Life resumes its noise, but you are no longer pulled into it unconsciously. You have trained yourself to remain centered regardless of conditions. This is the true result, not a temporary shield, but a permanent shift in posture. You walk differently now, you listen more, you speak with intention, your presence is grounded. People may feel calmer around you or uneasy without knowing why. That is because mastery changes the field around you, not through effort, but through consistency of being. Nothing needs to be chased away, nothing needs to be fought. When there is no chaos within, chaos finds no place to land. This is the end of protection and the beginning of sovereignty.